What's going on, wrestling fans? Welcome into another edition of Near Falls with D Hall, a wrestling podcast. Today, it is my favorite episode of the year, my favorite project, the WPIAL Preseason Preview. So pumped up to release this to you guys. Just right off the bat, we're doing it a little bit different than we did last year. Last year, I had them all together on one. It was like 3 hours long. It was a lot. This year, I'm changing it up. Each single team is going to have their own little video, their own little episode of the pod. So you won't have to sift through all the other stuff. Super excited for that. We talked to all these different coaches, man. I had 30 guys come on from across AA and AAA, which shattered my goals for this year, which is awesome. So yeah, man, I'm just super excited to release this to you guys. It was a lot of fun. These coaches were open and honest. They had great insight, and for me, man, just to sit down and listen to these guys talk about what they're wrestling, there's not much better in my world. So without further ado, here is the WPIAL Preseason Preview. Thank you, guys. Love Jens. As always, brought to you by Switch Custom Apparel.
Welcome to the Near Falls WPIAL Show, where Dial and Kaz are gonna tell you all the things you wanna know. Whether it's Trinity or Spencer Lee or Mr. Kurt Angle, just ask Vinny D. WPIAL, yeah, Ken and Mac for sure. They got the interviews to suit your soul, because it's Near Falls in the WPIAL.
Joining me now from Canon McMillan High School, my good buddy, Coach Slack. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. And first things first, that sweatshirt is something. I almost lost my mind whenever I pulled you up. 1994, the crew neck. That's impressive, my friend.
Yep, my junior year. I've watched a couple of your other episodes. They've been going great. I love the new format. I think this is
Thank you.
perfect. It's going to get to a broader audience. So when I saw your collection, I saw your video with Billy Evans talking about 93. I said, oh, I have to pull this out for tonight's episode.
Let's go, man. I appreciate that. I found some of these online. I'm just gonna keep trying to grow the collection as much as possible. So, but yeah, man, I appreciate that. Don't count me out. I'll find one of those someday. It might take me a few years, but I'll find one.
God willing, you will.
All right. Let's move right into the squad. How's the off-season program going for you guys this year?
The off season's been excellent. After the season ended, we had a very large participation in freestyle, which we're really big on. We had over 20 at Freestyle States. Ended up with 6 at Fargo. Good showing up there, boys and girls. I would have to say that this off season is the hardest working crew I've ever had in all my years here in the off season. It's been excellent. Strength training, running, swimming, of course, mat work. Since school started, we've been 6 a.m.s Monday through Friday. It's been excellent. And then, that's with the lifting and the running and swimming on Thursdays. We've been co-oping with our swim coaches, male and female. And so every Thursday we were doing swimming sessions. It just absolutely the hardest working group I've had yet.
Very good stuff. Okay. Next question I have, man. College wrestling's going wild right now. We're watching these open tournaments, these dual meets. It's amazing stuff. I know you have a couple kids involved in multiple different levels. Talk about your alumni group.
Yeah, the alumni group's doing super. Of course, we got Garrett Ninehouse down at Oklahoma, perennial top 10 guy. He's fallen into that category of, I think they have him listed as a junior. How long that
The
COVID
mess
just keeps going and going. He's lost in the blood round at least once that I know for sure, maybe twice. He's still going down at Oklahoma. We got Jacob Houth up at Kent State. He was, he redshirted last year, but got, I think what did they allow 4 or 5 matches? So he had some varsity matches and definitely did some opens. Did very well at 125 up at Kent State. This year, I've been speaking with him a lot. He was winning his elimination, I think 5-1, his wrestle off, and he threw legs in, and they heard a pop, so they stopped the match actually. So they're checking out his meniscus and his PCL, but he's doing excellent. Hopefully, he's medically ready to go here soon. Up at Cornell, we have Matt Furman, who's gray shirting. His brother, Brendan Furman, just graduated from there in the spring, has gotten married and bought a home locally here. And Matt's now up there gray shirting. He stopped in today, being home for Thanksgiving. He's doing excellent. Gabe Stafford's up at Edinburgh. He wrestled off at 174 as their starter. So he's doing excellent. Brandon Damai is over at Washington Jefferson, W&J. He won their wrestle off at 125, and he's been starting there. So another excellent, and he's a little bit lightweight, so they're going to focus a little bit. He's still weighing in 121, 122. So he's going to be sharing some time with some of the bigger, older guys, even though he won the wrestle off. And they're going to try to put some weight on him. I'm pretty close with Sonny Blanco. He works pretty closely with us. I mean, he's a very savvy, talented wrestler himself. We have Luke Schaefer down at Davis and Elkins, 133, and he's doing good. I don't think they had an official wrestle off, or maybe just he hasn't, but he's doing excellent down there. I've been keeping in touch. I expect to see him Friday. We have an alumni camp along with all the others I mentioned. Two females. Maddie Mansman out of East Stroudsburg won her wrestle off as a true freshman at 109. Has several wins already. She was back in town working with some of our wrestlers today, and she'll be at the alumni camp Friday. Very proud of her. Gracie Elliott down at Cumberland's also won her elimination at 109. So we may see a head-to-head with some of our alumni at some point this year between the females. Some others, maybe not so much competing in wrestling, but are wrestling alumni who are doing some other things. Noah Livesey is playing football. His football scholarship down at Cal U, doing excellent. He was just a monster, athlete for us. He dealt with, the very first practice last year, he dislocated his kneecap in wrestling. And so that kind of hemmed him up, and we just got him in there right at the end, a couple matches, but doing well with his football scholarship at Cal U. Gianmarco Ramos, following his father's footsteps, is at West Point. Not really wrestling, but doing. I can't say enough about him and his family.
Yeah, I feel like that's worth a mention.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? I'm super proud of that. And his two sisters are on our wrestling team, and Lalani, the next sister, who's a senior right now, is looking to get into West Point also, and she's well on track. On Saturday, she has a interview with the congressman, and she's well on track to make that goal a reality. Tyler Soule is in the Air Force. Giuseppe Giuliani in the Air Force, both doing well. So that's some off the top of my head.
That's
anyhow.
Not bad, my friend. Not bad at all. Yeah, man. You know what? That was one of the things I definitely had to touch base with you. I know you have guys and now ladies all across college wrestling, man. And I know when I sat down with you even years ago, you were one of my first episodes. You talked about that being a goal, getting these kids and to the next level, which is awesome, man. It's very good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next part of the show. Leaders. Who are some of the guys that you're leaning on to kind of help some of the younger guys in the room?
Well, we have no shortage of that this year. Last year we were junior heavy, which in turn means that we're senior heavy this year.
Yep.
I mean, we have great numbers, so it's not like a senior heavy as far as percentage, but senior heavy in the sense of quality, experienced wrestlers. As you well know, having been the junior high coach for that 21 years and coinciding with 10 years as the head youth coach here at Canon Mac, this senior group is that group that I've gone coast to coast with. And so I'm a sentimentalist at heart, and so it's a very special year to me in that sense. So these leaders, these are guys that can, say my talks verbatim. So we're talking Andrew Binney, obviously returning state runner-up. We're talking Tanner Mazenko, returning WPIAL champ. On up the line, Josiah Gardner, the kid is just a heart of gold. Dislocated his elbow against Waynesburg last year in the team state duels, finished the match. I mean, these are guys that are just Gino Calgaro. He's probably headed off to a football scholarship, leading tackler in 6A football 2 out of the last 3 years. But just absolute monster for us on the mat. It was just you see his results, duels versus individuals. He really steps up for us. Such a great team leader. Mason Williams, a heavyweight, returning last year to filled in for Noah. He's a senior this year, so we're looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table. But I would say when we're talking strictly leadership, and like I said, there's about 8 seniors. I don't know if I want to bore you with going through, all of them, but Andrew Binney, who's committed to the Naval Academy to wrestle for Colat, has really found his voice as a leader. For several years, he was kind of just, the work hard, follow my example. But this year, very detailed, descriptive, showing moves to the boys and girls and youth, coming to our club practices, helping with the youth. I mean, really found his voice in being a leader, which has been so welcomed. Tanner Mazanko, he made it to the WPIAL finals as a golfer this year. And so,
Ooh.
he plans on golfing in college, actually.
Sounds like I need to round with some of these guys, man. Like I heard Dylan Barrett's a golfer, Tana Mazanko's a golfer. I
Yeah.
need to round with these guys. This is awesome.
Yeah, he's cool. But he took a couple days after he didn't make it to states, and golf Whippeals was kind of, came out of last season banged up. It's a state tournament. It was sort of disappointing turn of events. But, at the time, we weren't making a big deal about it, publicizing, but he was wrestling with a torn knee at last year's individual states, and things kind of didn't go his way. So he has high goals this year. And after he took a few days after golf, he immediately got in there. And again, like Andrew, just ultimate leader right now. So I will say those are some of the guys, as far as current leaders. But we have no shortage.
How about
Ryder
the other side?
Joseph? Maybe that's someone else I should mention. Guy who's
That's
been
good.
hanging around since the beginning. He's really stepped up. Blake Ward, another senior. I don't know. I could go on and on, but
Hey, man,
those are
I
some
love
of the
that
guys.
about you. That's the best. Okay. How about the other side of the coin? Freshmen, guys that are coming in that that's with your wrestling, man. It's always the next guy up. Who's the next freshman that's going to shock everyone? Do you have any of those guys that we need to keep an eye on?
Yeah, so there's kind of an old adage at Canon McMillan. We typically don't
Rinse,
take up a
wash,
lot.
repeat.
Yeah, we typically historically don't take a ton of freshmen up. The old adage that kind of was passed
Mhm.
down to me was if your team needs a freshman that bad, then your team's not that good. Now,
Oh,
with that
okay.
being said,
How about newcomers?
we've had several freshmen through the years. Connor Schramm was our first freshman state champ a few years ago, well, 10 years ago now. So we've been doing it. This year, I'm very excited about a freshman named Braden Collins.
Okay.
This is a kid who's actually a basketball player. So throughout junior high, the way our basketball program works, and I think this is how it works at all schools, the boys do half of the 9 weeks, the girls do the other in junior high. So he would do the first night, the first until after Christmas, he would play basketball. Then he would show up in January on our wrestling team. And lo and behold, he's making the state finals, state semifinals. And I mean, literally on 25 practices, his first year of wrestling, made it to the state final. So that tells you the genetic disposition he has. And so we took him up to the Cornell camp 2 summers ago, and he as a seventh grader, he's a big boy. He's like 175, 180.
Ooh.
And we get into a duel with another high school team, and I told us this kid's a seventh grader, so they let him wrestle. Well, he lateral drops this high school kid from New York, and so he got a little excited. And so on the van ride home from Cornell, I said, I really believe you could be a high school state champ. And so he told me, he said, well, I'm going to play AAU basketball then in high school. I'm going to commit to wrestling for you. And so we've brought him up as a freshman. We're extremely excited about him. He's actually putting in the mat time now, which he's never done in his life. And we're watching him wrestle some of our older kids. We're like, wow, like this kid could really be something. We took up 2 other freshmen, maybe because they're like lighter weight type guys for some depth. But I would say Braden Collins, if I'm looking at freshmen, that should be contributing, if not mid to late season this year, definitely the next few years.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, man. One of the cool stories I thought at the end of the year, you guys unveiled Collier Hartman, and he became a weapon for you guys at the end of the season, and lo and behold, you guys pulled an ace out of the hat there, and Me and Kaz were trying to figure it all out all year. I'm like, I'm going through the lineups, whiteboarding it. We have our Excel spreadsheets out, and I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, they got to find something. And lo and behold, here comes Collier Hartman. So talk about that, man. Talk about the depth you have on your lineup, and ultimately what, in my opinion, that's what won you guys the WPIAL championship. You guys have a tough kid at every single weight class.
Yeah, that's what we try to build here. Even last year and this year, knowing I was junior heavy, and we had those seniors, Dan, my Stafford, and Furman last year, so we knew they were going to move on. We know we're very well aware that these 8 seniors this year are going to move on. I mean, we have about 11 seniors, but I think 7 or 8 are going to start. And so immediately, 2-3 years ago, we started investing heavily in our junior high and youth, just paying attention, projecting weights. And so that's kind of what I do. I keep a list K through 12. We talked about this years ago on the big podcast. I keep a list K through 12 of every kid in our program, male and female. And I'm a list guy. And matter of fact, I have that handy here. I'm not going to try to give away any secrets, but I'll just give you a little insight. So this is like my boys list,
Screenshot.
Kind of hard to see. Yeah, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
Everything's on PA Power. The girls list, but it's K through 12, right? I keep a list K through 12. I talk very closely with my whole staff. We're in the buildings. We're a K through 12 program, like we've mentioned before.
Yeah.
All our meetings, there's a lot of crossover. Our youth coaches, our junior high coaches, high school coaches are in all our meetings and board meetings and staff meetings together. So we're well aware. So like you mentioned, a guy like Collier, Hitman Hartman, like that's someone we've had for years. Caught in there with Damai and of course Tanner Mazanko last year, but we knew what we had all year because we see him in the room. He's right there with those guys. So we kind of did that a little bit on purpose. We play a little sleight of hands here and there throughout a year because we have guys that wrestle. We're going to do it this year.
I mean, last year in particular, Slack, it was. I talked about this with Scott Stoner from Butler. Like 6 to 7 teams could have, and maybe not necessarily won it, but 6 to 8 teams could have went to states last year. There was so much parity in the WPIAL, unlike ever. I mean, I remember Kaz like texting me like at 11 o'clock at night, like all these scenarios. I'm like, dude, you need to go to bed. Like, we'll talk about it in the morning. He was like, I'm just so excited. I'm like, I know it's a great year, but
So, on that note, first of all, Scott Stoner, they're coming to our scrimmage this weekend. Love that guy. Love what he's done at Butler. I mean, oh my goodness, talk about, Canon Mac. I'm just blessed to be carrying the torch. It's a 100-year program. We have history. We got families. We got support. What Scott has done up at Butler is phenomenal. Nothing but respect for him and the Butler program. He's coming to our scrimmage, like I mentioned, Saturday. Just an excellent guy. But, on your other note, 6 to 7 to 8 teams that could have went to states. At this point last year, I don't know if I probably, said it to you last year at the podcast, but on paper, when you're looking at returning wins and state place winners and these types of things, I could have easily put us 5th or 6th best on paper. And we were able to win the WPIAL, which was nothing short of extraordinary for those kids and the community. And so this year, like I'm looking at it, okay, on paper, maybe 3rd or 4th. So to me, that's exciting. It's like, okay, we're a couple steps up from where I thought we were at this point last year. But you were right. Like, you had Connellsville last year. Well, first of all, you had Waynesburg, returning 3-time WPIAL champs. So you had to put them first.
Right?
And that's why I wanted them as the home opener. It was like, and I took that loss, but we had a crowd in there. I mean, it was just awesome atmosphere. And that kind of set the tone for the WPIAL finals, that state blood round match. So you had Waynesburg. You had Connellsville on papers just every year after year. You look at them, you're like, how are you going to beat these guys? And that's the same way this year. You're just like, how are you going to beat these guys? And then you have Trinity right now these last few years and for the coming next 4 or 5 years. I mean, It's on paper, phenomenal team. You have Butler, the group they had together. I mean, don't sleep on Bethel Park this year in our own section. What Nauman's doing over in a group of mixture of older and younger kids he has. Last year, Latrobe, we draw them in the quarters. I was like, oh my goodness, like I could be out of this tournament in the quarters because they were healthy. They had everything. and then Norwin knocks him off, and it was like the parody was unbelievable, and I think it's much like that this year, to be honest. That's why I'm excited. You know, it's up to each program and each team and each individual to work hard and let it fly. You know what I mean?
I love that, Coach. Coaching staff, who's helping you this year?
So, so we return a lot of the same guys. Jordan Mayer, Canon Mac graduate, one of our administrators in our school district, just plays. You can't value his role right now in my
It's
program.
awesome.
Albert Miles, D2 national champ, back again. These guys have both were assistant coaches to Mark Powell, who we have, who's a head coach over at Trinity. Mark is the guy on our staff that I think we talked about this at States last year when we had Dan and Benny on. Um, he's a kid at heart, and he brings that atmosphere to the team. He's all the kids, boys, girls, young and
Yes.
old, parents, everyone loves him. He loves his role right now. He's in there to make good kids better, and I can't think of anyone who's doing a better job of that right now, at least in my circle. I'm not going to compare it to other people that I don't know as well, but Mark Powell's unbelievable. Big Ten wrestler. 140 wins over at Trinity, head coach for at least a decade. Started out West Green and then went to his alma mater at Trinity, and had Albert and Jordan as assistants. So you're talking a lot of coaching experience right there. That's on our boys' side. We also have Cody Klempe, one of our greats who you are well aware of.
Yeah, he used to beat the dog snot out of me, Cody.
The old bone crusher, Cody
Yeah,
Klempe
man, he
is
was a monster.
unbelievable. Monster. He's on our staff. Dave Gump, he's a late 80s wrestler at Canon McMillan, plays fourth in the state, plays sixth in the state, went on to wrestle for Virginia Tech. He's involved because I'm trying to tap into that 80s atmosphere. He's been with me all 3 years, but when I reached out to him, I said I wanted to reach back to the Cook era of Canon McMillan, and he came from that era, and of course I had like the Macedas and Newman era, and and then a lot of these guys on my staff had the Chris Merrier. So like I'm trying to tap into all of that with my coaching staff, to bring those, to keep this tradition going. So we have Dave Gump, like I'm mentioning. We have Ron Totterdale, who's kind of heading up the girls' side. We did a track model. So now that we have the girls and boys official wrestling, the school district approached me and said, do we want to do this like soccer and basketball, separate the programs, or do we want to do the track model where there's one lead and then we create two staffs on each side, but we're one program? Of course, I went that route. This was kind of my dream here at Canon McMillan, to have a girls program for a long time, because I started coaching Valerie when she was very young, and I could see the talent she had and how important girls wrestling was going to be. And as you know, and the WPIAL knows, and the state knows now, because the girls won states last year. The first thing I did when I got the job was create the girls program. So I have Ron Totterdale over there. He coached with me. I coached him when he came through. A lot of these guys I coached when they came through. It's 27 years now, Donnie.
Not a bad friend.
But he coached at as an assistant high school coach at Fort Cherry, South Fayette, and then Upper St. Clair. We were able to get him back in our fold. He's helping me on the girls' side. It's hard to find female coaches right now with wrestling experience. So what I did was I tapped into. We have a female teacher, Sheila Mitchell, who coaches both the boys and girls volleyball team, and they've had a lot of success. I mean, she's been WPIAL Coach of the Year in volleyball. So I reached out to her and we asked her if she would come along, and she jumped on board last year, and she's been invaluable. Locker room presence with the girls, picking up the wrestling. Like, she can corner kids now. She can run a practice. She's excellent, but I'm telling you,
You have to have that, I feel like, right?
You
gotta
need
have
it.
that
You need
female
it right
voice.
now. 2 rooms and a female coach, invaluable if you want your girls program to take off, which ours, thank God, has. So that's on our high school staff. This year in the junior high, we had 62 boys sign up. So I knew that was coming. We have 34 boys in 8th grade wrestling right now, just in 8th grade. I expect 3 or 4 of them to maybe push for a starting position next year. We were talking about freshmen before. We have just an excellent 8th grade class. So I reached out and was able to secure Jason Carpetta as my junior high head coach. He was on our 1992 state championship team at Canon McMillan, wrestled well in college, was an excellent wrestler in high school, multiple time states, wrestled in college, like I mentioned. After college, takes over the Fort Cherry wrestling program, wins a couple WPIAL titles there. Eventually tries his hand at Tripway, goes over to Peters Township, coaches there for a while. 16 years of high school coaching experience, helping out our youth last year. So I said, right now, this junior high team, the 21 years I was there, if I would have seen this team coming, I would have been so excited. As a head coach, actually my title at Canon McMillan, I was talking about that track model, and I better get this award because I'm called the wrestling coordinator at Canon McMillan. So I fully expect to be the Pennsylvania State Wrestling Coordinator of the Year because I might be the only one, right?
Right. No, I
So I
feel like
better
that's
get that
fair.
award.
I feel like that's a fair one, brother. No,
Yeah,
that's a
I'm
good
probably
one.
the only one, so I think I deserve that award. But
Yeah,
anyhow,
that's good stuff.
all jokes aside, I was able to secure Jason Carpetta as my
That's
head
awesome,
junior high
man.
coach. And I'm heavily invested in them because I created a junior high girls wrestling club. We have about 15 or 16 girls wrestling junior high. We're around 60 boys right now. And so I got Carpetta. I got Blaze Kansko. He graduated from Canon Mac, Greco
Yep,
All-American,
stud.
Fargo. Ian Bernardo from our 2012 state
Stud. I wrestled
championship
him
team.
too.
Yep. Brad News down there. He's kind of heading up our computer. He's heading up our alumni. He's not our president, but he's on our alumni committee board, but he's heading up the websites. Now he's a computer guy, works from home, but he's also on our junior high staff. We brought up our head CCNS coach onto our junior high staff so we can create some continuity. You know how important continuity is to me.
Absolutely.
So we brought him up to our junior high staff, so he's kind of doubling up there for some continuity. And then we got back Nick Connick. He was a good wrestler for us, again on that 2012 state championship team. Wrestled for Mercyhurst, is now becoming a surgeon at Children's Hospital. He has some labs on Tuesdays, but other than that, he can fully commit. So we have 6 coaches at our junior high right now. So we're rolling about 13 coaches deep right now on paid staff. Okay. Then you throw in Marky Angle's been helping us since I took over. It's my teammate. We graduated together. Super great friend of mine. You know what what hasn't been said about Marky Angle, and to have someone with that technical experience. I mean, second in the world at one point, 5-time Fargo champ. I mean,
Yeah, not a bad guy to just have him pop in the room.
Oh yeah, no, he's been very active in our
That's
room,
awesome.
increasingly active. And then here's the wild card that's been, just so amazing. We pulled in Kevin Saniga, Connellsville fame, 3-time WPIAL champ, 2-time state champ. I like to call him Connellsville's Marky Angle.
Oh, you
So
got some
he's been
Connellsville in you now. Here we go.
well. Check it out. That's the part. It's like they're kind of
I
like,
mean,
hey,
they're so successful, man. I really, really appreciate what they do down there.
oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Like, and there's a reason why they got Bill back down there at Swink. He was ahead of their youth all them years. Like he built. I mean, the Dohertys. I mean, they're a community. They're a wrestling community. Like you said, what more can you say about them? I love those guys. I mean, they're our rivals. It's a
Oh,
bittersweet.
no doubt. No doubt.
And,
They knock West Day out every year. Trust me, buddy. As much as I respect them, I hate them. Trust me. I get that.
yeah, I was hoping to get them as our home opener this year. We couldn't work it out. I really wanted that bad because we're going back to Virginia Dual. I'm sure you'll ask about schedule, but
Let's run right into it. Talk about
yeah,
it.
let's segue into that, I suppose. Yeah, so as I was about to mention, the last couple of years we went to the Collinsville duels early January, but our program all through Chris Mary's era went to Virginia duels, and so it was something we were spending a lot of money the last couple of years getting things going. The second room, all these, we talked 13 coaches. You're spending a lot of money, gear, numbers are up. So we kind of saved up. We've built up some money finally. And so we're going back to Virginia duels. So we're unable to go back to Connellsville duels, which is unfortunate. So I was trying to get a match with them outside of their duels. Weren't able to work it out. But we start out home opener this year is with North Allegheny, which I believe they can be a top, they could easy. You could pencil them in for a top 4 team. When we talk about 6 to 8 teams in the WPIAL who can easily compete, I believe they're one of them. So a home opener against them, and they have a strong girls program. So junior high, girls, boys, all in a row that day. Super excited about that. The next week, we go down to Waynesburg, and I'm telling you, people when they see Mac Church and Rocco and Makel and the older Evans gone, they're like, okay, they're going to be, they're out of it. But I'm telling you, if anyone sleeps on them, they're hugely mistaken. They still got the Rush kid. They got Sheftick, the coach's son. They got another Evans. They still got Simone, who was banged up last year. I mean, they're going to have 5 or 6 guys that a lot of teams are going to have a hard time beating. And anytime you win 1 or 2 of the other ones, now that you're up 6, 7 wins, there's a dual meet.
Yeah.
So Waynesburg's going to still be tough. Of course, when you lose Mac Church and Rocco Welsh, 2 of the top guys in the country, they still have Stevenson, for instance. So that's another name. So we go down to Waynesburg, that second match. Then we start getting into our section tournament. We have Upper St. Clair right before Christmas break, and then run through our section schedule. And I'm telling you, Bethel Park, Peters beat Bethel last year, which was a little bit surprising to me. So they're still right there. But Bethel's going to be, this is a good year for them. So that's some of my duels. Of course, as you guys, I guess it's well known, I like to challenge my guys in December. So, as the head coach, I immediately returned to Ironman for better or worse. Like, it's just the challenge I want to put those guys into. So we go Ironman, King of the Mountain, Powerade, bang, bang, bang. The girls are going there's Ironman women's this year. So the girls are going also. We got fight tournament for the girls, which is right up there with Ironman, and then Powerade. So December for the girls and boys is, my goal is to get nationally ranked wrestlers losses in the month of December. That's literally my goal. And the rest of them are just, them young kids and those new kids. I get a lot of kids that go 0-2 at Ironman. People are like, what's the word? I'm like, because they got to know what they're preparing for. They want to be nationally ranked. They want to win states. My goal every year is to make the Pennsylvania postseason not the hardest thing that my kids are in. When we're going, and that's the other thing. The last few years, there's controversy about, what's happening with the non-boundary schools. It doesn't bother me at all because, you got someone like Andrew Binney who's committed to Naval Academy. He's going to have to wrestle these guys. You got like all those college wrestlers we mentioned at the beginning of this podcast. We're going to have to wrestle these guys. So why not wrestle them now? Like, what's the difference? You wrestled them in youth, double A, triple A, prep schools are all together in our states. You're going to wrestle them in college. So Ironman, Powerade, we wrestle them anyway. You know what I mean? So let's just like, it doesn't bother me one bit. Bishop McCord, I love those guys. They come work out with us. Jack's Force, he beats Andrew Binney in the freestyle state finals last year. So I go talk to him and his dad. I said, we want to be at that level. He drives over and spends like 4 or 5 days training with Andrew Binney at my club. Like, that's the type of people they're great people. These are great wrestling people. It does not bother me one bit. Faith Christian, I don't have a great relationship. They're so far, as far as Faith Christian, Notre Dame, Green Pond, or whatever. So I don't know them as well as I do the McCourt people, but I love these people. They're wrestling people. I love what they're doing.
Well, let me ask you this: you're on a tangent, and I want to keep you there. And I feel like you have a voice, in the wrestling community, and especially in the WPIAL. What are your thoughts? Like, I know, it's tough with numbers and everything, but other states do it. Man, one division individual tournament would be absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, California does it. And, when a 3 or 4 time state champ or even place winner comes out of California, they're a real deal. If we want that, I mean, the thing about Pennsylvania is this, it's well known the amount of Division I All-Americans that we put out every year. Everyone sees the stats. It's usually double the second state. So whatever we're doing is working to some degree, obviously.
That's fair.
Our depth is, when Kel Sanderson first came over from Iowa State, that was, if you saw some of his early interviews when he was first finally got out of the recruiting shadow of Iowa out in the Midwest and came to Penn State. That was his first kind of, I guess, epiphany. He's having these camps and stuff. And I remember one time he had a camp, and this is when Connor Schramm and Jimmy Gollibon and Zane Rutherford and all these guys were still in high school. And he has a camp, and he sees them all wrestling in a group, and he's watching the first one. He's like, wow, that kid should be unbeatable. And then second one gets in, like, wow, that kid's better than him, and he's better than him. Wow. So like when you get into Pennsylvania, you're talking, there can be a phenom from any state. Roman Bravo Young, Arizona, the Sandersons, Utah. I mean, there can be a phenom from anywhere. Mark Hall starting off in Minnesota, or actually Kentucky, then Minnesota. But anyway, it's like, but in Pennsylvania, when you get your fifth, sixth best kids, they're still good. There's kids that don't make it to states out of the WPIAL who are good, who end up being national D2, D3 qualifiers, and placers, all Americans. And so what we're doing, I think, is working. I hear a lot of chatter about making a third classification, and there are a lot of non-boundary schools. And they probably could create an awesome third division, but like I said, it doesn't bother me. I think a lot of those schools are about to move up to AAA.
Yeah.
Fort tried this year, so I think at the end of this 2-year cycle, they'll be up. Maybe Faith Christian will be up.
That doesn't bother you if you guys wrestle them like dual meet wise?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I do believe that the days of a public school winning a state title, or much like basketball, they have 6 divisions in basketball, and I think 2 years ago, 9 out of 12 state finalists in basketball were non-boundary schools. So I think we're headed there with wrestling. But again, it doesn't bother me because, as I'm looking for the kid's future, and even life after wrestling is a big deal to me. So this is character building. These are real wrestlers. It's not like they're fake people. These are people that are training. Just if you can't beat them, join them. It's like, get up at McCourt. You see the videos, you see the social media. They're up at 5 a.m. every day working out. Hey, they're going out to Colorado. They're spending money to go out to Colorado and train with the world's best. They're putting in that sacrifice. They've you see it on Rudis's gear, way of life. They've made it their way of life. You can't knock that, in my opinion. You've got to applaud it. And, we try to do the same thing. We wake up, like I said, since school started, we've been in there every day at 6 a.m., Monday through Friday. And the results will show, now, my kids are, we're pulling them from our own district. They're a little bit more, I'm not going to say more well-rounded than other people. I'm not going to compare them, but they're very well-rounded, multiple sport athletes. A lot of them are going to play football in college. So it's not our way of life, much like those people. But we had headgears off to those people. We love them. We applaud them, and we train with them, and we want to be like them. As Andrew Binney, it is his life. So we're training with Bassett, and we're training with Jax Forrest, trying to get to that level. But yeah, it doesn't bother me. And I love wrestling those guys in duels. We, like I said, Iron Man, Powerade, we see him. So, Benny will see him in college the rest of his life.
Let's go. Good answer. And I'm glad you answered. That's that was a hot button topic. And, you got to come to WPIAL champion coach right there. So good stuff. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Okay. Into a softer topic, room games. What do you guys get into? Dodgeball, spike ball?
I saw this in the other podcast. It's funny. And I think we talked about this years ago, like through the junior high years, all the different games that the people go through. But I'm kind of like the coach, my wrestling with virtue program, Canon, especially for the younger kids. Like, we're going to play a game. And I just look them right now and say, wrestling's my game. Like, your parents brought you here to wrestle. Wrestling's my game. And they kind of look at me, especially the young kids, they're like, oh, we're not going to play foxtails or dodgeball or these types of things,
Right.
And I'm like, hey, wrestling's my game, and so what happens is, especially at the club, the little kids, they come and I say, if you want to play with because I do have a bag of balls, they play dodgeball and there are various games. And I dump it out, say practice starts at 6:30. I'll dump out a bag of balls at 6, but at 6:20, that bag comes up and I'm like, balls in the bag. Let's go. High school guys, it seems like the last year or two, it's been a little bit of spike ball. They have some spike ball nets. And again, though, it's before it's not at the beginning of practice. It's, if you want to play spike ball, get here about 20 minutes early, have your fun, but we got a Jacob's ladder. We got a rope fit. we invested $200,000 into our weightlifting gym. As Tyler Nauman mentioned in his podcast, we have a hired strength trainer. His son wrestles for Bethel Park. He's helping them too. He's excellent strength trainer, the best I've had. Because he gears it towards wrestling. He's a ex swimmer, high level swimmer, jujitsu guy, judo. His son's involved with wrestling, so he comes to our tournaments, watches the movements, curtails the workouts, and our school district agreed. They put $200,000. It's basically a state of the art college. We have 16 stations where we can put a whole team through workouts. But so that's what I tell them. Like, you could come 45 minutes early, jump on the Jacob's ladder, jump on the rope fit, or you can play spike ball. It's up to you guys. I'm not against it.
I hear you. Yeah,
But
no, it's no
wrestling's
doubt,
my
but it's
game.
definitely, it's wrestlers, man. We're kind of wired a little bit different. You give us a ball and we go nuts. You know what I mean? It's like we're not supposed to have it. It's funny.
And they invent their own games like constantly.
Exactly.
I've seen it all, and
Exactly.
it's cool. And when I was a younger coach, 20s into the 30s, I was right there. Some groups played basketball. In my old middle school room, we had basketball things, so we played basketball. And then on the chin-up bars, I remember there was one where you'd start at the line, try to get it in, keep backing up. Of
There you
course,
go.
dodgeball, the various forms of dodgeball. I mean, we've done them all.
Wrestlers, no doubt.
But that's why nowadays, in my mid to late 40s, they look at me and say, "We playing again?" I say, "Wrestling's my game. I'm not here to waste time."
I love that, Coach, my man. Okay, next thing I got social medias. How can we follow your team this year?
So our Facebook has been well established for a long time. Canon McMillan Wrestling. We have a huge fan base on there. A lot of alumni, a lot of supporters, which Canon enjoys like very few communities in the country. Quite frankly, you're basically a celebrity if you wrestle in Canonsburg and Canon. But that's our biggest one. But the kids, it seems like every year a different Instagram or a different Twitter. They do Snapchat. Big Mac Wrestling, Canon Wrestling, Canon McMillan Wrestling. They're all on there. The one that I keep my eye on, because we're that age group. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but we're Facebook.
Yeah.
Like the kids, they're teenagers, early 20s aren't so much on Facebook because that's where mom and aunt and grandma is. But that's where our alumni and our
But
fans.
Facebook's got some history, man. You guys post some, like you guys, Connellsville, like you guys do such a good job of posting history about your program. And that's like something that like at West Allegheny, I've been trying to, figure out how I'm going to challenge the guys or get that rolling. You know what I mean? I love, love, love that. It's so cool.
Yeah, over the last couple of years, what I've really, because I'm one of the administrators on our Facebook site, and what I've been very careful about is to leave it exactly at what you had said. Like I don't put one thing from even my own club on there. So like some other people try to share things in our clubs, and they say, "Hey, why don't you share?" I thought we were friends. I tried to share I said, I don't even share my own on there. Like Canon McMillan Wrestling is for Canon McMillan Wrestling. It's for what the current students are doing. Like you said, the history. It's like I don't share tournaments on there. Like nothing. It's strictly Canon McMillan wrestlers, current and past. In the season, I'm mainly focusing on what they're doing right now, the current students, because they've earned that right, to have that spotlight. And that's why people tune in. Our alumni, our community, the parents, the grandparents, the aunts, uncles, that's what they're there to see. They're not there to see advertisements, tournaments, other clubs, including myself, promoting themselves. And so I just don't, even myself, I don't cross those lines. Like,
Gotcha.
the club has its own page, and Canon McMillan has its page. So I keep things a very distinct line. And then in the off season, like you've obviously seen, is when we're popping out the old videos and the history, and just keep the enthusiasm and keep the constant interaction going and the support. I mean, we have so much support here; it's unbelievable.
Man, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, what do I got next? Actually, anything or anyone you want to shout out before I leave you go?
Me. I'm just, tomorrow's Thanksgiving, right?
Yes.
First and foremost, I'm always thankful for God. That's who I am. I'm not going to be on your show evangelizing, but I'm very thankful for life. And I believe that God created that life. I'm thankful for my family. I have a wife, 3 kids. they've allowed me to do this all these years. Without their support, the amount of time that I put in.
They're the real MVPs, really. I mean, the families of, I was just giving my wife a big kiss and hug before I came down here.
Yeah.
It's been a grind for her, man. I'm going through, sitting down here hours, putting in after, I put the kids to bed. It's the families are the ones who, definitely the real
Yeah, they make the
MVPs.
real sacrifice. And it's absolutely true. I mean, the wives and the kids of any coach of any sport are truly sacrificing, because if a coach is willing to coach, especially a high school sport, it's not like we're losing money doing this, all of us. We're doing it for love of something. The students, love of multiple things. For me and like somebody like the Vigalotis, and we take great pride in our school districts. They take great pride, and they were born and raised there, and they're putting, they're thankful for the coaches that came before them, the Havelkas, so they're trying to give back that same amount of sacrifice that came from the Havelka family. The Vigalotis are now doing. I'm trying to return that same favor here at Canon Macmillan. So we're doing it for the love of these other things. It is our wives and our children who are sacrificing time and energy, and you're right, they're the real MVPs. So I'm thankful to God. I'm thankful to my family. Thankful for here we are. You got the WPIAL. You got people like you. Just the WPIAL is a hotbed of wrestling in this country. It's brutal.
It's amazing, man.
It is, but I'm so thankful that I found myself being a part of this fraternity of the WPIAL. It's so special. It's such an honor. It's such a blessing. Like you said, 6 to 8 teams every year. It's just all these other coaches. I watched all your podcasts. Basically probably 80% of the way through them. I love all those guys, Tarquini and Matt Levy, and just on and on and on. Justin Waters up your way, just have nothing but respect for him. I mean, I know you did. I didn't see a podcast from him, but now, man, just as soon as they hired him, like such a great wrestling coach, such a wrestling family. And now he's in the whip. Well, he's been in the whip. We had experience with him at Mount Vernon, but I mean, just the WPIAL. Thankful for the WPIAL, Pennsylvania wrestling. And what a great time in USA wrestling. I mean, we are dominating. This isn't the Russia of the 70s and 80s and early 90s. Like, it's USA right now. I mean, so the proof is in the pudding. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful that I have the health and the energy to do this right now. So these are some things. I mean, no in particular shout outs, because once you open up that can of worms, it's like, where do you stop?
So
My
true.
wife, when I give talks in front of rooms at banquets and things like this, she says, don't do it, because as soon as you mention one, it's like, you got to go through the whole room, or else someone's going to be kind of like, well, what happened?
Yeah, man. No, I think you answered that question perfectly, man. And, I enjoyed talking with you tonight. I gave you the end of the night slot, giving you the long runway, man, because, you're the WPIAL champ. So those out there, you want the long runway, get you a championship and we'll talk. I appreciate you, Coach. Thank you so much. And we'll see you at the tournament, Powerade, and, all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. Hey, and when you come this way, don't forget to look me up. I mean, find you some good accommodations, while you're, we'll try to be great hosts to you. And much like we do with Ken Wonderly and stuff, but we love you, man. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you so much, Coach. I appreciate you. And, like I said, I'll see you soon.
Yep. Have a good night.
All right, Coach.